movie, sci-fi, and action thrill. Reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real. Reminiscing the Attitude Era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blue forever, we love it so much. Geek Blur, where we talk about it all, from superheroes to wrestlers. We stand tall, Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blur, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? Let's messed up right. Geek Blur, taking you on a nostalgia flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us in every week, we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, man. Not much. Yourself?
Doing all right. Jump right into the show. Got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about what we watched this week. Start off with quick reaction to Mobland this week. Great show, great episode. 2 more episodes left. Next week and Sunday, and then next Sunday it'll be over. Great show. I cannot wait to see number one if this is going to be picked up for a second season and where the season is going to leave off. I think a lot of people are watching it. I'm hearing a lot of people talking about it.
They're usually pretty good about picking up second seasons.
Yeah, they
Paramount.
are. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Maybe not third seasons with Halo, but Last of Us last weekend, episode 6, the penultimate episode of this season. In the beginning of the episode, we get a flashback of young Joel and Tommy way back when they were kids in 1983. And they're the swordsman from the MCU who was in Hawkeye, just in Daredevil Born Again. He played their father, who was a police
He's
officer.
the big bad of Better Call Saul also.
Better Call Saul, yep. That's right.
Laszlo.
But it's kind of great to see where Joel got his fatherly instincts of he's going to be a better father, going to grow up to be a better father. And he kind of passed that on to Ellie in a way too at the end. This whole episode was all about flashbacks. It's all stuff that filled in the void of a lot of complaints from this season so far. I know from the game compared to the TV series, there's stuff missing, and this episode pretty much filled that spot in. We'll talk about the scenes, and then you can give your reaction to what the internet's saying. I haven't really kept an eye on it this week, but the flashbacks were all around Ellie's birthday and Joel. When they end up in the sanctuary town in Jackson,
Jackson, Wyoming. Yep.
Yep. And it's year to year going through her birthdays. When I think she's 16 in the first one, and then she's older.
Yeah, it's like the first birthday in Jackson, and then it's just like 2 years ahead each time or something.
The first one, Joel makes her a guitar from scratch. Takes a bone and puts it in the guitar. I don't know what the meaning of that is. I guess it's something to do with the guitar making. I don't know. The next birthday is the Science Museum scene, which is, from what I hear, shot to shot exactly the way they did it in the video game. And I think that's what the video game creator said. Like, when you do this scene, they have to be exact. This is something that the fans of the video game need to see on screen, and they can't be any different. Next scene, a year or two later, Ellie's coming of age, and she's scissoring in her bedroom, and Joel walks in on her.
Sure is.
And she also has a tattoo this time, and Joel's kind of upset in the beginning, but realizes it's covering up the bite mark that she had on her arm. And in a prior birthday, she tried to burn it off with a hot pan. So Joel wasn't really too mad. In the beginning, he was mad, but he kind of got over it, realizing why she did it. And she's also starting to question Joel about Salt Lake City and what happened in the end of the first season, and how he saved her. She didn't know that, not until the end, but she does find out. But it also is a flashback to Eugene, who is the husband of Catherine O'Hara's character, the psychologist. And you find out that he was bitten in the woods. This was a couple birthdays before, a couple years before. He was bitten in the woods, and Joel had to make the decision to shoot him in the woods. Even though he wanted to go say goodbye to his wife, he had to make the decision to shoot him in the woods, and promised Ellie he wouldn't do it. He would give him time to go say goodbye to his wife, but he did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the same look that he gave to Ellie when he promised her that he was going to let him go see his wife is the same look he gave to Ellie when he promised he didn't make any damage during the Salt Lake City trip in the first season. So that's when she kind of knew that Joel was lying to her from the very beginning. And then we fast forward about, I think it said 9 months later, it was the night of the first episode of this season during the dance. And the last thing we knew is there's that guy that called them dykes. Joel protected Ellie. Ellie yelled at Joel, was like, "Don't fucking protect me. I don't need you." And then we get the flashback scene later on that night when Ellie's like, "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but I would like to try." Very heartbreaking because we know what happens later on that next day.
Yep.
And I know from what I've heard, very video game accurate too. This whole entire like flashback sequence is going in. There's one part of it I don't think was completely accurate, and that was she asks Joel, is it possible were they going to make a cure? And Joel says yes. And I don't think it was ever told in the video game that the cure was absolutely possible.
Right.
The creator came out this week and said that, yeah, that was always what we were kind of hinting to, is like, yeah, the cure was definitely going to happen.
And like people are coming out saying that the creator doesn't even know his own story and stuff like that. Okay. I don't know. I guess they have different interpretations of the game. I always just assumed that there was going to be a cure. They just don't make you know that for certain in the game. I believe.
But it seems like the creator put his input into the show and said, this is what the game
and like
meant,
the way the last season ended, like I feel like that was the gist of it, is that there absolutely was going to be a cure, and then Joel goes and kills everyone. Right.
Yeah. But overall, great episode. Leaving off Ellie back in current time kind of gives her emotional state going in there into this last final episode when she's in Seattle. And that's where we're going to leave off next week. Two things. The creator of the show, Craig Mazin, I think is the guy who did the game too, has indicated that a fourth season of the show is probably going to happen. It's going to be essential. Quote, hopefully we'll earn our keep enough to come back and finish it in the fourth. That's the most likely outcome. And I haven't played the game. I don't know where we are time wise.
Neil Druckmann is the one that did the game. Mazin is the showrunner. Mazin did the Chernobyl show, I believe.
Right. Okay. I know the game is half Ellie and half what's her name,
Abby. And the Abby shit is boring too. So
and the next quote that came from Catherine O'Hara in an interview this week is she confirmed that season 3 is going to focus on Abby's story.
Yeah, so a lot of the second half of the game is Abby.
Okay, from what I recall. So I'm sure it'll be flashbacks. It'll be her during this time of being hunted by Ellie and all that stuff. So that's probably why she hasn't been in this season much besides the episode that she was in. But yeah, great show. Cannot wait for the finale. We'll talk about it next week. Dark Side of the Ring, Daphne. I don't know if you were watching around this time WCW like I was. I remember Daphne.
I remember Daphne.
Yeah, we were kind of watching back and forth at the time. This is also the time when they changed the logo of WCW and Vince Russo was in charge. So there's a lot of crazy shit happening in WCW at the time. But I do remember Daphne. She was huge. She ended up winning like the the cruiserweight title or something too. She was winning men's titles too, but that was also a Russo thing. Yeah. So you can't put too much. But a great story about her. Came up not really just wanting to be in entertainment. Did a little vignette, sent it to WCW heads, and they saw it and hired her immediately. No wrestling background, no real knowledge of wrestling, and they just taught her the ropes, brought her in to be a valet, and the rest is history. And she became a big, huge part up until the end when WWE bought the company, and then she kind of had nowhere to go except for the Indies. She went to TNA, a little stint in TNA, but really she was just indie after that in health. And they did a great job in this episode talking about that. So Another great episode of Dark Side, learning
Yeah,
about
the
her
show's
bringing her
fantastic.
family in.
Who's
Uh,
next week?
Next week is the finale, and it's Muhammad Hassan. Another great
That's
story.
right. Yep.
Vince McMahon wanting to go ahead against the Iraq War and bring in a pro-Arab character who is Italian, I believe.
Yeah.
in real life.
And he was
but yeah,
awesome too, from what I remember. I was kind of
Yep.
out of wrestling at that time, but I've heard nothing but great things about him. So
great wrestler, great promos, but great. He had another guy that was with him that did the promos.
yeah,
I
his
can't remember his name.
manager was awesome. Yeah.
Davari, wasn't he? And he's one of the writer or one of the producers now.
He's also a very good wrestler. Did we see him at
He
Ring
is.
of Honor, or maybe I just saw him on tapes in Ring of Honor? I can't remember.
Possibly. I know he was around that time. Yeah. The studio had a finale this week. What a great show.
So glad to get another season.
Yeah, me too. And a continuation of last week's episode. I'm so glad they brought Bryan Cranston in this show because he is just so fucking funny.
They weekend at Bernie him.
They weekend at Bernie him. That was the greatest part of this episode. They went to CinemaCon, had their thing at the end, and they completely went off the rails like we kind of figured it would. And Seth Rogen tried to turn it around as much as he can, but it left off kind of like, did it really? Did it really make the crowd think that the studio is in good hands? But it's going to be picked up for a second season, and we will talk about that again when it airs again. Speaking of Apple TV, another show, I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of the episodes, very quick to get through. Actually, one came out today. I had time to watch it. There's 3 episodes of Murderbot. From what I gather, I think this is based off a series of books or a book. And Apple TV bought the rights to it, created a series, hired our Alexander Skarsgård to play this robot. And he's a robot in the beginning of the show. And he learns how to take off any inhibitor chips or anything and becomes kind of sentient. He's an AI robot kind of, and he can control his whole entire well-being in robot ways. And the whole show is about that, him kind of becoming aware. Very good. 22-minute episodes. There's only 3 so far.
So it's like the bear.
Very quick to get through. A little bit of comedy. The way he plays the character, it's more of a dramatic sci-fi role though, but it's really good. It's on Apple TV Plus if you want to watch that. Let's see. Oh, another documentary. This came out on Netflix Wednesday, or Monday or Tuesday. Very good. The Untold: The Fall of Favre. All about Brett Favre and how he became the darling of the NFL. Was him and Brady were kind of the poster boys for the NFL at the time,
and like Manning and Breeze,
Manning, But for me,
he was the poster boy with,
and he just went off the rails, and it was all had to do with sexting dick pics, unsolicited dick pics to Jen Sturger, who was a sideline analyst for the Jets. She came out of Florida State. I know she's a comedian now. I know she has a podcast. I actually listen to the podcast every once in a while.
Nice.
But yeah, she's coming out. She brought in all of her text messages, voicemails, the dick pic itself, which I know has gone around the internet for the last 10 years. I don't know how the guy who created this article, I think it was Deadspin or one of those, created the article. I don't know how they got to him, but he had all this stuff, released it all. And they tried to take down Brett Favre. And it's kind of like, how are you going to take down somebody who is so beloved in a sport that he's just dominant on? And that's what the documentary is about, is like the NFL was not taking any, they weren't doing anything to Jen Sturger. It was just kind of throwing it under the rug, saying, we don't have really any proof, or we can't really do anything about this. And then statute of limitations. I don't know if they talked about it in the documentary, but she's talking about off the documentary, where statute of limitations ran out the day that they decided that there was nothing wrong with it. So they kind of waited and stretched it out till the very end of the statute of limitations. Crazy story, Brett. And then the other stuff I had no idea about. I remember hearing little things about it when it happened. But the whole welfare scandal.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. I thought this was going to be only about the dick pics. I completely forgot about the welfare stuff.
Yeah, and that's a whole other thing of him fucking around with welfare money. He's taking it for himself, denying all of it, but he had millions of dollars coming into his own foundation and his own personal gain. And then the welfare, was it Mississippi or wherever he's from?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. They found out about it and just like, holy shit, you stole this much money from poor people. It was the biggest like welfare in that state, the welfare scandal in history. And I really had no idea about it until we watched this documentary this week. But great, it's on Netflix.
I wanted to
hour
bring
long.
up one other thing.
Yeah.
There's a soccer game on apparently.
Okay.
The second I saw Mike Vick on this documentary,
Yes, I forgot to put it in the notes. Yes, the only football player they had
talking
in the
about
whole
how it's
documentary
easy
was
for
Mike
some
Vick.
people to like get a pass, and I'm
Yeah,
like, bro he should have like another 25 years left on his sentence for dog fighting.
right. Yeah, he should be in jail. But yeah, that was crazy because the only football player they had in this documentary. They asked Brett Favre to be a part of it. Of course, he denied it.
Yeah,
But,
obviously.
yeah, obviously. But yeah, Brett Favre, kind of a creepy guy.
Kind of,
especially
yeah.
when you see what's in his closet. But so we talked about Andor the last month, however long that show was on, Andor season 2. So I wanted to jump in and talk about Rogue One this week. Kind of see where we stand as far as this movie is now, after having what we had from Andor, which ended off in a pretty great state with Andor and leading up to this movie. Before this movie and before this show, this was my favorite Disney Star Wars thing so far. And it still stands. I still love this movie. Andor's character definitely developed into this movie so much more because there was so much more weight to it.
Yeah.
And of course, the end of it when he dies, spoiler if you have not seen this movie, when Andor dies with Jyn Erso on the planet when it's being destroyed by the Death Star, you realize that there's so much hope in that moment. The sacrifice for the rebellion and everything that he puts forward in that, and with stuff that he doesn't even realize. He doesn't even realize he has a child. He doesn't even realize Bix is alive, the woman he fell in love with for years.
Right.
And all of that stuff, he does all of that for them. And he doesn't even really realize it, but he does it for everybody. The rebellion, hope, everything. It's just a great story. As far as this movie is concerned, do you know the history behind it? I know Tony Gilroy wrote this. Who was the director of
It was Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards, okay.
And then Gilroy did all the reshoots.
Right.
Edwards got pushed off the project.
Yeah.
This is very quietly the first time that somebody got pushed off a Disney Star Wars project.
Yes, and it
in
happened a lot
post-production.
after that.
Yeah.
The big one was Solo, the Star Wars movie, which I've only seen once. And they brought in Ron Howard because the Millard and Lord were kicked out. Like
because they
right in
hired
the middle of
Lord and Miller
production.
to make a movie like a Lord and Miller movie would be, and then
Right.
they realized that's not the way they wanted to do things, I guess.
Right, yeah. It's probably not their style to do Star Wars. It's more comedic. Star Wars is for the most part taken seriously. But
I would have loved to see what they did though with it.
my favorite, I kind of realized as I was watching it, the reason why I like this so much, I think it's a reason why a lot of people don't like it.
The forced nostalgia.
The forced nostalgia, yeah, but the whole reason why I liked the prequels was the same reason why I would go to the prequels every other year to see those movies, is because they were connecting to stuff in the past. They were connecting to all the original trilogy stuff, and that was kind of what was happening here. R2D2, C3PO being forced in there, yeah, I could see that being a problem. But having stuff that was known in lore, like the Kyber crystals, like Jedha, which nobody really knew about, but it was a Jedi sanctuary. It was a Jedi like holy planet where that's where the Kyber crystals were being mined. Nobody really knew about that. It was cool to see that, the Jedi mythology of everything, and seeing the big, huge Jedi stone statues, gigantic statues out in the desert. It was really cool. And actually seeing the Death Star being made, being completed, and hunting down the plans. That's all stuff we know about, but it's actually seeing that happen and putting those puzzle pieces together is why I was so attracted to this movie, why I still am. Also, Mustafar. We always heard about Mustafar being the planet of Darth Vader. Seeing that for the first time, seeing Darth Vader in his sanctuary, it was just great to actually see that.
Wasn't the last battle in episode 3 on Mustafar?
Yeah, but actually seeing the castle, seeing that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
where
seeing
he-
like where he lives. Okay,
right,
God.
where he kind of he grew there. He was made there, and he grew his whole empire there. It's kind of interesting to see. That's where
Now,
he stayed
I have a
after he
question
was
for you.
injured there. Yeah, what's up?
How did you watch this movie this time?
What do you mean? I watched it in 4K. Like,
Did you watch it on
the
Disney
TV.
Plus or the one you?
No,
the
I,
copy you bought?
I bought it. Yeah, on
Okay.
iTunes a while ago.
Because I've had this forever. Because I got the Blu-ray when it came out, and I watched it on that. But I was just wondering if Disney has fixed or made the CGI on Leia's face better. That was just like they did to Mark Hamill in Mandalorian.
That is the one problem I have with this movie, and it was in the very beginning when you see Leia at the end of this.
Very early also stages of doing that.
Great Mark, right? Very, very early stages, and Great Mark Tarkin had the same problem.
Right.
You could tell it was CGI.
I want to know if Disney went back and fixed it up, or not.
I don't know. I never heard anything about it. I never
go
seen
on Disney and scan through,
or maybe go on Reddit. Yeah,
probably.
It's something that they should do, but they don't do that stuff with movies too much unless you're George Lucas.
Yeah.
Back in the 1997, you're doing the special editions. They don't usually change stuff like that. You also see Tantive 4, The Escape. I know a lot of people complain. You've mentioned it too, where it's Darth Vader porn at the end of this movie, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
But it's exactly what you want after seeing Darth Vader in the original trilogy, seeing him act the way he was, even seeing him in the prequels. And knowing that he's going after these very important plans that could destroy the Empire, destroy a portion of the Empire very quickly, and doing it in post haste was incredible and remarkable. And the scene is only like less than 5 minutes, but him just going in there, murking motherfuckers with a lightsaber. I remember seeing that in the theater each time I saw it. It's like, holy fuck, this is just incredible. Chasing him all the way to the point where Tantive 4 is escaping, and then leads right up to A New Hope, of course. But great movie. The final battle over Scarif, they used archived deleted footage from 1977, remastered, of all the fighter jets, all the fighters that were in A New Hope. And Red 5 was the big one. Red 5 was a character I think they brought in for this movie, a new actor. But of course, if you remember A New Hope, when Luke Skywalker became a fighter pilot, he took on the name of Red 5. So the Red 5 before had to die, and he died in this movie. And it was kind of a quick, cool nod. I want to mention a couple of things. Ben Mendelsohn. I don't remember him from anything before this, but I know him from everything after. Great actor. Bringing him in as Director Krennic was awesome. As a kind of a villainous character. He's been in everything from Marvel to everything. But he also came back for Andor, so very, very cool. Donnie Yen, I don't think I'd ever seen him in anything. I know he had those other movies. I don't remember what they're called. He has those other kung fu movies.
Yep.
But being the blind guy who's in here, isn't he blind in those kung fu movies too?
Yeah. Is he in the Raid series, or?
I can't remember the name of his series, but. It's like
I believe he was blind in whatever one he was in. Yeah.
Yeah.
IP Man, was that it? I don't know.
IP Man, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in like 3 or 4 of those. But coming in as a character called Sharut. And there's no Force, there's no Jedis. We're in the post-Jedi world, of course, the end of the Empire, kind of beginning of the rebellion. But he lives in Jedha, which is a Jedi mythology based planet, of course, is where the myth of Jedis come from. It's like the whole religious part of it. And he's part of this religious sect on Jedha who still believes in the Force and uses it, even though he's not really, he's not particularly Force sensitive. He doesn't have a lightsaber, but he is blind and he can fight being blind. And that could be just like, it could be like Daredevil, where you can just read people's heartbeats from while you're fighting and stuff. But it was really cool. K2SO, Alan Tudyk, great in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. I already talked about the Darth Vader massacre chase scene. It was awesome. Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor sacrifice for the rebellion. The whole rebellions are built on hope was in this movie at first, and they brought it back in Andor. This whole quote where it came from. That's what Cassian tells Jyn Erso. And did Andor series enhance the experience? I think it did. I think it definitely did for Andor's story. Yeah. And I'm glad we watched it this week. And a year from now, we'll talk about Star Wars again when we watch Mando and Grogu.
Yes,
Mandalorian and Grogu. So, I know a new movie came out this week in theaters. I did not see it. Probably not going to see it in the theaters. I don't know, but I did want to talk about Mission Impossible. The two movies I have not seen. You just watched Dead Reckoning a couple weeks ago, you said?
Probably it might have been last week or the week before,
okay.
Yeah.
I had not seen Fallout, which was the movie before that.
Fallout's fucking great. I love Fallout.
Fallout was really good. That's the one where Henry Cavill came in with the beard.
Yep.
And had to go into reshoots with Justice League with the beard, and they had to CGI the beard. That's the whole reason because of this movie.
Well, to be fair, on it actually, Warner Brothers was told he was allowed to shave, and they just chose not to. So that's on Warner Brothers being fucking dumbasses in 2016.
That's even dumber. That's even dumber then. Fallout, great movie. This came out probably 5 years ago, maybe even longer. I don't remember the year it came out, but great movie. There was some stakes to the whole entire team. One of the people died. I don't want to get into spoilers if anybody hasn't seen this stuff. It took me a while to get through it, but his team kind of comes back together in this movie. It's a team. It's very much a team movie. And you realize the further along you get in this franchise, Tom Cruise is getting older and older.
Yeah,
and the stunts are getting crazier and crazier. And that doesn't stop in this movie. Getting into Dead Reckoning, which I thought was a fantastic fucking movie.
You like Dead Reckoning?
I did. I liked it a lot.
I thought it was just okay. I wasn't huge on it. It was kind of a clutter mess, but I also was just like, I sat on it for like 2 years in my fucking iTunes folder, for Christ's sake.
Well, I thought
it had really great action in it. Didn't
lots of great action, lots of great character development. I think there's a lot of nods to the original Mission Impossibles from the past, which I was kind of getting confused with the bad guy of this movie and who he was.
Yep.
There's a little quick flashback of him fighting him when he was first getting into the MI program. Other than that, it leaves off with a huge cliffhanger, which we already knew. This is part one. But yeah, I liked it a lot, and I liked the whole end of this movie and the set in the train where they're trying to escape the train as it's falling off the cliff, car by car by car.
The action in it's really good.
Yeah, that whole entire set of how they had that train, I thought was really, really cool. And they had to climb through the train by car to get to before they fell down in the ravine below. By the way, that whole scene reminded me of Back to the Future Part 3 in the ravine.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, great movie. And I kind of cannot wait to see the next part. And I from what I hear, everybody loves it. Definitely a definitive ending to the series. So speculation is already a while that is this Tom Cruise? Did he die? Does his character Ethan Hunt die in the movie?
I have a feeling they're billing it as that so they get a little bit extra money, because none of these movies, even though they seem like they have a huge following and are pretty successful, have never even. I think the last one cracked 800, and that's the highest they've ever gone. Wow. Like you would have thought there would be $1 billion film in the series, but they just haven't reached that mark yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if the marketing is set around it being Tom Cruise's last movie.
And they look stunning.
Dude is 60, so
right. They look stunning, so they must cost a lot of money to make too. So
yeah, the new one was $400 million because of all the practical stunts.
Yeah, so that's crazy, and it's all practical. The scene in this last one where he's flying off, he's jumping off the bike off of a cliff.
Yep.
And then he parachutes off the cliff. All real fucking practical stunts. It's just ridiculous.
Yep.
I was thinking while I was watching this, I know the Oscars are going to be adding a stunt category. If he's not the first presenter for the stunt category, why do they even have it in the Oscars?
Right.
But yeah. It just came out. The new one came out, Final Reckoning. And we'll probably talk about it in the future sometime. But yeah, it's opening up against Lilo and Stitch, which did a huge numbers last night in previews. So probably not going to win the box office for the weekend, but you watched the movie. You went to the theater today. You did not see Thunderbolts. You did not see Final Reckoning, but you did see Final Destination. Yeah, give your thoughts. I'm so far behind on the Final Destination world. 1 and 2 I may have seen.
1 and 2
as far as I went.
fucking great. This is
Classics.
probably
Yeah.
this is probably the third best one. I haven't seen 2 in a while, but I rewatched 1 and I watched
Okay.
5 for the first time. Do you know the Twist in 5?
No, I haven't seen past 2. I don't
Okay.
think.
Okay. Twist in 5 is pretty cool. The movie
Okay.
itself I was kind of underwhelmed with. That was also the
Okay.
one they filmed for 3D. So all the deaths have that. Oh, this is
Right,
supposed
the
to be seen in
effects.
3D.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking annoying in the big 2025. But this new one's really good.
Okay.
Basically the premise is in the 1950s, this woman basically had the premonition just like Devon Sawa did in the first one, and saved hundreds of people's lives by evacuating the building. Usually it's like 5 or 6 people, and then death comes back for them. So these people went on to have lives. They all had kids. But death started coming for them and their generations afterwards.
Okay.
Basically throughout the last 70 years it's been, or whatever it is. So basically she's like kind of holed up in this like cabin thing, and like she's just like living, just she knows all the signs of death and stuff like that, but she's basically a hermit and stuff. But her granddaughter, who's never met her, starts having this nightmare, and it's the same vision that her grandmother had.
Okay.
And it just so happens to be at the same time her grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. So eventually death did get to her, just not in a violent way. So she meets the grandmother. The grandmother gives us this like book, like all these crazy stories. She tries to tell the family about it, blah, blah, blah. And then death starts coming for them. It has one of my favorite Final Destination death scenes, involving a vending machine and an MRI machine and a Prince Albert.
I've heard about the MRI machine. I heard it was gruesome.
It's wild.
That sounds bad.
It's fucked up.
Okay.
But this movie was excellent. Tony Todd, of course.
Yeah, nice movie.
His last film, and they let him improvise his dialogue, and I got a little teary-eyed during that scene, because I've grown up on his movies. The one where he had the hook there back in the day at Candyman. I saw that when I was like 8 years old. And it's probably why I have a fear of bees to this day. But yeah, that scene was very emotional, and I love how they tied it in. They tied him into the Vision in the beginning, is all I'll say, which I thought was really cool and creative. And yeah, R.I.P. Tony Todd. I'd give this movie. I hate doing right out of the theater because I literally got out of this movie like 2 hours ago, but it's a solid like 4. It's definitely the third best. Like it's right up there with 1 and 2 in the Final Destination movies. There was ode to every single Final Destination movie in this. And in all the previous ones, Tony Todd's always talking about, I've seen this before, blah, blah, blah. And they give you a good reason as to why he's seen it before. It's really, really cool.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it overall. I forgot who wrote it, but it was somebody we've talked about on this podcast a lot, I feel like. He's in like our lexicon of stuff, and I'm blanking on his name. But he like wrote and produced it or something. But yeah, 15 years after the last Final Destination movie, and I thought this was a really interesting concept to bring it back where they go after the kids, basically. And of course, the way death works is it goes in order of your death, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why the old lady was like one of the last ones, because in the Vision, she was the last to die.
Okay.
So that's why it's like everyone, then it starts going after her family.
Right.
So yeah, excellent movie.
Cool.
Definitely recommend it. And with the way movies theaters are working now, and Mission Impossible, Lilo and Stitch will probably be available online within the next month, I'm guessing, even though it's doing really well for it being a horror movie.
Right. Yeah, Sinners comes out, I believe it's not this
June
Tuesday,
2nd
Tuesday,
or 3rd.
yeah, the Tuesday after, yeah.
What would have been my mother's 80th birthday.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, your mom and my dad are the same age. My dad just turned 82. So, we are now officially less than 2 months away from Superman. I know you're excited. I know I'm excited.
I'm excited and cautious about my excitement at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. I muted every word I could think of this week on Twitter. So,
but we are in the 90s. We've been talking about the 90s. We
Uh-huh.
talked about Superboy last time. This week is my bread and butter. This is the show I used to watch every Sunday night on ABC.
This show is so 90s. It's unbelievable.
So 90s.
It's so 90s.
And this was on ABC. Came out in 1993. After all the movies, after the Selkines lost their rights, Warner Brothers and ABC decided they wanted to create Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
They hired two relatively unknowns to play Lois and Clark, Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. Terry Hatcher was in Desperate Housewives after this. She was in a whole bunch of stuff after this.
This was her break, yep.
Dean Cain has been locked into this role for the last 30 years. And typecast, and he hasn't been really in anything else besides this, maybe in a couple B movies and Hallmark movies. More known for his political stance now than anything in his Twitter.
He was lucky though, because I'm sure the residuals for this show when it first came to DVD probably paid for a couple Christmases. Have you seen his house in Vegas? It's goddamn beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I can imagine.
He definitely made all of his money off of this show.
But this was made for a new generation. Well, it was made for me because I watched it when I was a kid. I loved it.
You were like 9 or whatever when it started.
But it was prime time on ABC. And all the promotion art was something you would see on a fucking soap opera magazine. This was made for the housewife generation. This is made for the soap opera women watching soap operas in the middle of the day.
That's one reason why I never saw it, because my cousin watched it, and she was always into those, like, I just saw it as like a show for like chicks that just happened to have Superman in it. Is how I viewed it growing up.
Yeah, it was definitely Lois and Clark-esque.
Yes.
Superman took a backseat to a lot of the stuff. He was in the tights, of course, as you can see there, but it was all about the relationship. And I haven't seen the new show that you've watched last year, Superman and Lois. I haven't seen that.
So good.
But this does the best depiction to me so far of what I've seen of Lois and Clark as a couple and their relationship and everything they had to go through their relationship. From falling in love to Lois becomes a clone in the 3rd season, and Lex Luthor creates a clone of her. Marries Clark Kent, but the marriage becomes void because she was actually a clone at the time. A lot of weird stuff you would see in soap operas at the time or in the 80s.
Yeah.
But it was all love, intrigue, the villain of the week, all created for the show. Not too many comic book villains. There's a couple, but it was definitely the Superman generation for the housewife. And I was hooked on it every single Sunday night at 8:00. I remember sitting in my living room when I was a kid watching this show religiously. This was the title card. This is what it looked like. But yeah, these right here, these are all the promo pictures. It was all focused on Lois and Clark, the whole entire show. And their dynamic together was just incredible for the time. But this is what you would see in the beginning of the show, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. That is his mom and dad. The big difference between this and everything before and everything after it, the whole entire series, Jonathan and his mother, Martha, are both alive the whole entire time.
Yeah, which makes sense because they were starting to do that in the comics at the time where Superman would have his living father. And I mean, I love that change because I love his conversations with his father in the comics.
Right. There's two things that happen. In the 80s, the comics changed. The whole story of Superman changed. We talked about it, I think, last week, the week before.
Yeah, right after Crisis in 85 or 86.
Right after Crisis, everything changed. So they wanted to make this TV show. They wanted, number one, get it all the way out of the Selkines' hands after Superboy and everything they fucked with the movies. And they wanted to take it into themselves and to make it more on brand to what their comic book was doing on the shelves at the time. That's why we got the show. It was also around the time, which we're going to talk about next week, all around the death of Superman was going on at the same exact time this show was out. And that was the biggest thing in Superman lore in 50 years, just because of the amount of news press that was being taken over by that, which we'll talk about all that next week. But that's Lois. That's Martha and Jonathan. That is also her making his first suit in Smallville. There is a scene of Smallville in this show throughout with their house still being there, and they fly in and out of Metropolis all the time. But this is the original first season cast, and that is who played Lex Luthor in the first season, John Shea. they end up going in after the second season. John Shea only did Lex Luthor for the first season. He came back, I think, 3 or 4 times through season 2 through 4, just for guest star moments. Like I mentioned, in the third season, he created a Lois Lane clone. And he did come back for that. He was bald in that, but he had hair throughout the whole entire first season. The end of the first season, he ends up trying to marry Lois Lane. And a big, huge thing is he falls off the top of a skyscraper, and Superman doesn't save him, and he ends up supposedly being killed. And then, of course, soap opera trope. He comes back 2 seasons later, bald-headed and injured. But the other thing that they changed, as you can see there in the cast, there's 2 members. There's Kat, who works at the newspaper, and there's also a Jimmy Olsen.
Mm-hmm.
When the second season came along, they got rid of Kat, and they changed Jimmy Olsen to a brand new character, brand new actor. And the reason for the change was they wanted to be more hip, more 90s, and more teen-like, more kid-like. And the other,
that Jimmy's got the Sean Hunter haircut going on.
Yes, of course, and he looks like Sean Hunter. He calls Clark Kent throughout the rest of the series. He calls him CK for short. Yep. But that's all I remember from that. But talk about a few episodes. I don't know. Did you have a chance to watch any this week? Okay, I watched that and then some. Once I started getting into it, it brought me back into the nostalgia of everything. We'll talk about it little by little. But the Tempest episode was always my favorite. Tempest Fugitive came out in second season towards the end. Tempest was a criminal from the, I think, 200 years in the future. And H.G. Wells, yes, that H.G. Wells, the Time Machine. I don't know. I meant to look it up. I forgot. I don't know where this came from as far as the show is concerned. I don't think it's part of the comic books at all. But H.G. Wells comes in with the Time Machine and brings this fugitive from the future into current time 90s Metropolis. And of course, you bring him into Metropolis in the current times, and he just goes crazy and becomes a menace. And Superman has to stop him. Lois has to stop him. There's a whole bunch of time travel fuckery that happens in this. A lot of tropes to Back to the Future. There's actually set pieces that look like Hill Valley. And you're talking 1993. So you're talking 1994, just a few years after Back to the Future had already come out. But here's some pictures of Tempest and H.G. Wells, and him holding H.G. Wells hostage in the time machine, and of course the time machine there as well, right directly out of the movie if you ever seen it back in the day. That was a great episode. The end of that season, a couple episodes later, is where Clark reveals to Lois, well, actually he proposes to her, and Lois already knows that he's Superman, and she takes his glasses off. This was the season finale. I remember watching this the night it came out, and she realizes that he's Superman in that episode. And then the next episode, when it comes back for the third season, they're flying up in the sky in the Superman classics, going through the clouds scene, and they end up embracing and kissing in the sky and all that. And then we get into the end of the third season, and there's a whole entire 4-episode arc that everybody talks about. It's the New Krypton story. If you know comic book lore, New Krypton was part of Krypton that came off before it exploded, floating through space. This is mostly comic book accurate, except for one part. Came off of space and ends up going to Earth, and they tried to recruit Kal-El to be their leader for New Krypton. These 2 Kryptonians come on in the end of season 3, and are trying to recruit Superman to be their leader, take his Kryptonian roots and become their leader. But they're also being chased down by a Kryptonian character that's very much on par with Zod, but I don't think they wanted to name him Zod because of the movies. I think they wanted to change it. So they ended up naming him Nor, Knorr. But there was a 4-episode arc, 2 episodes at the end of season 3, and it ended in the 2 episodes at the end of the beginning of season 4. And Roger Daltrey was one of the villains. That's him in the middle there. The lead singer of The Who. He came in as a guest star as one of these characters that was kind of a mimic character who could create the person they was fighting. He could fight them, and every time he would fight them, he would become more like them, and learn their weaknesses and mimic them. I can't remember his name. Tez was his name. But yeah, he was in that. He was an assassin. And as you can see, they took over Smallville, and Superman had to save the day and save Smallville and send them off planet. I believe they ended up killing with a Kryptonian bomb or something, nuclear bomb. And then after that was all cleaned up, Lois and Clark, after that, I think it's episode 3, they finally did get married in the beginning, in episode 3 of season 4. Iconic. I remember seeing that night too. Iconic scene. And later on that season, Christmas episode, is when they brought in one of the first comic book characters, Mr. McSixaplex, Mr. McSixpetalix, as they call him in this, but played by Howie Mandel, who was huge in Fox at the time. He had that show, Bobby's World. He was doing the animation for the voice.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did Bobby's World. That's right.
But it's big in comedy, big in just comedy at the time. But they hired him to be Mr. McSixaplex, and he took over during Christmas, and he created almost like this Groundhog Day for Superman, where he's the only one that was aware that the day was repeating itself, and because there was no tomorrow, there was no hope, and everybody was kind of turning against Superman and hope for the world, and then he had to save the day. That was a pretty good episode. But the show ends in 1997. It wasn't supposed to. It got canceled. Ratings went down. People weren't watching it. Kind of like at this time, comic books weren't becoming that popular either. They took a dive in sales as well.
They were supposed to do season 5, but
yes,
what's her name got pregnant? Lois got pregnant in real life, and it was a difficult pregnancy, so they decided to just stop.
But it did end on Superman and Lois trying to have a baby, talking about having sex all the time throughout the end of it. After they got married, it was all sex all the time with Lois and Clark. I remember that. But they find out in the season finale that they cannot have kids because he's Kryptonian, she's a human. But the end of the episode, a baby just miraculously shows up on their doorstep. And Jesus. I have a picture of that right there, and that was basically the end of the series. Is that scene with Lois and Clark holding the baby, showing it to her parents and his parents, and that was it. The show was supposed to leave off on a season 5, and the baby was going to be a Kryptonian baby sent to them, and then the story was never finished, never completely told what was going to happen, but. The show was known for villains of the week, but also guest stars of the week, and there were a ton of them. I have some of them here. Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers. James Earl Jones played the mayor in one of the episodes. Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek. Sherman Helmsley from The Jeffersons. Adam West played a really quick cameo in a courtroom. Frank Gorshin from the original Batman series, also Ben Stein, huge Ben Stein money at the time was huge. Jack Larson, the original Jimmy Olsen, played a cameo in this. Penn Jillette, huge at the time, magician. Drew Carey had this really cool weird ghost episode with him and Mimi from the Drew Carey show. Bruce Campbell, Peter Boyle. And the original Lois Lane, Phyllis Coates was in this, and there's a bunch of other character actors that you've known and seen before that were in this too. But I love this show. I used to watch it all the time. I watched the series just about 20 years ago. I watched the whole series from beginning to end, and it was good to go back
on DVD
this week. On DVD, I had all the. I still have them. It was good to go back and kind of rewatch the best parts that I remembered when I watched that back in the day. I watched all those episodes this week. So next week, we're going to hit the end of the 90s. We're going to talk about 2 things. One, we've been talking about the death of Superman, the return of Superman, all this stuff, the media storm for that. We'll briefly talk about the Nicolas Cage movie that failed and it didn't happen. And that's kind of where the 90s did. Superman kind of just died right there in a couple of different ways. But and then next month we'll get into all the 2000s stuff, which is just crazy. But yeah, Smallville, Superman returns, all that stuff's gonna be cool to get into. So that being said, let's get into the news. And it's not a news segment without the trailer roundup. Got a full trailer for the Predator Killers Killer
Killer
of
of
Killers.
Killers. Nice.
Comes out in just a couple of weeks, June 6th on Hulu. This trailer looked really good.
Mm.
Do you know if it's a series or a movie that's going to be an
I
anthology
think
movie?
it's a series question mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I know they're going to tell the Predator story through history and the Predator going to Earth.
That's why I assume it's
know-
going to be a series. Like one each week will be a different time period.
The two that I remember, the Samurai, and there's also a World War I, World War II one. I think it's
Yep.
World War II, and there's fighter jets, fighter pilots, and stuff. But yeah, I'm very interested in that. Cowboys, I think, too, maybe one of them. I can't remember, but yeah, very interested in that. And we're gonna get the new Predator movie at the end of the year too. So, great time to be a fan of all that stuff. And the rumor this week was that Alien is going to be the alien xenomorph is going to play a part in this series too in one of the episodes. I guess somebody saw something in the trailer that made them think that. But Jurassic World, we got a new trailer. I believe, I'm not sure if tickets went on sale this week. Is that why the trailer came out? I think that may have been why. But we got some new posters. These are the first two 4DX Real D 3D. We got Dolby Digital, and we got some ScreenX ones. Look really
No
cool.
IMAX. They're not getting IMAX
Yeah, they are not getting an IMAX
because of F1, I believe.
Yep. But we also got some new looks and design ideas for the new dinosaurs. The one on the left is the D-Rex. It's designed and inspired by a mix of T-Rex, Rancor from Star Wars, and a Xenomorph from Aliens. And we've seen the pictures of that. We've seen it in the posters. It's kind of the mutated looking Tyrannosaurus Rex. And the other one is a Mutadon, who is a kind of a flying dinosaur, as you can see there, but it's definitely mutated and looks more like a bird. But I'm not sure. I've always been less than 50-50 on these movies.
There's only one good one. Well, maybe two. I like Jurassic World a lot.
World.
Too.
Yeah.
Lost World I liked when I was younger. But I mean, honestly, there's only one great movie, which is the first one, and there's one good movie, and there's a bunch of mediocre to bad slop.
Yeah, and we had
especially
our feelings
the last two.
The last one was pretty fucking bad. Oh yeah, the Locust. Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. People will show up because they like sweet dino action.
Yeah, and it seems more and more now that we can make dire wolves. It seems like this is more and more of a possibility the further along we get into the science. But yeah, this is also the popcorn bucket, the incubator dual container.
I kind of like
it's gonna have a cup. It's gonna have a cup built into the popcorn bucket.
I like that.
Cool. Exclusive to Regal, so we can probably get that if we want it. Got a new trailer for It. Welcome to Derry. Comes out this fall. We see Pennywise for the first time. Looks really good. I can grab some water here. Does look really good. Also got the new trailer for Caught Stealing. This looked really good too. I don't know if you ended up seeing or not.
I did, yeah.
But it looks really, really good. Darren Aronofsky.
It doesn't look like an Aronofsky film, which is what I
does not at all.
I appreciate about it.
It looks like a Coen Brothers comedy to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you got Austin Butler, Regina King, Zoe Kravitz, Matt Smith playing this punk-like character.
Yep.
Leo Schreiber and Vincent D'Onofrio, who are there dressed as rabbis.
Yep.
That's them there. But it looked really good, and I cannot wait to see that. And Tires. I don't know if you watched the first season. It's on Netflix.
I did not.
Very good, and the second season comes out on June 5th. They release a new trailer.
I'm not the biggest Shane Gillis fan.
Yeah,
so.
He's hit or miss for a lot of people. I understand that. Very good. New documentary on the Titan submersible sub that imploded last year. Coming out on Netflix on June 11th. They're gonna be doing some unseen footage, the hunt for this, and what happened in the aftermath, of course. But it comes out on June 11th. Trailer looked really good for that. Weekend box office last week. Final Destination won the box office of $51 million. Thunderbolts had second place with 16.5, and Sinners had third place for 15.4. If you have not seen Sinners, out of all the movies in the last month, Sinners is the best movie that's been out probably in the last year. Very good movie. You should see it in the theater before it becomes digital.
I think it was probably my favorite movie since we saw Dune 2, which was a year ago.
It's definitely
from Dune to that. I think that was my favorite movie.
Yeah, definitely the trajectory of movies. I think you're probably right, but yeah. Rest in peace to George Wendt. I don't know if you're a big, huge Cheers fan. For this area, huge because Cheers is in Boston.
I tried it. a few years ago. That
Oh,
show
you
is
weren't.
very dated. In
You
the
didn't.
early years,
You
very
didn't watch
dated.
it. You didn't watch it when you were younger. See, I watched it
No,
when I was younger. I haven't currently watched it in current times. I'm wondering
yeah,
if I would feel the same way. So
yeah.
I watched it when I was a kid all the time.
I
The
saw a
night it
few
was on,
reruns here and
reruns.
there, but
Yeah,
it wasn't like
yeah,
my thing. Like Seinfeld became like my thing.
yeah. But Norm, George Wendt, rest in peace to him. Died at 76 in his sleep this week.
On the
Um,
anniversary of the show ending.
yeah, yeah. I remember how big that show was when it ended. We went on a field trip. I think at the end of that year, '93.
Did we?
And we went to Boston. Yeah, we went to Boston. I
Uh,
think it may have been the Science Museum or somewhere.
oh yeah,
And I
yeah, yeah. That's right. We
and I
did.
re- and I remember driving by Boston thinking, oh yeah, this is where Cheers is, isn't it? It's the first time I went into Boston. That's why I remember it. The first time I remember going into Boston, at least.
Have you been to the Cheers bar?
But I've only driven by it. I've never
Oh,
been
okay.
inside. Have you been in?
Yeah, I went in when my sister first got married. Her husband wanted to go, so we did a day
Okay.
trip down to Boston. It's basically like it obviously looks nothing like the show,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's filmed on a soundstage or whatever. But it was like one side is like all merch, like they have like the coolest merch store if you're a Cheers fan, and then the other side there is the bar itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So rest in peace to him. Norm was a huge part of that. Him and Norm and Rassenberger, Cliff, huge
Woody
huge people.
Harrelson.
Always Woody Harrelson, huge on that show. Ted Danson, of course. Rest in peace. And I don't know. You may be able to explain this a little bit. I was trying to read articles about it, trying to figure it out. But this Warner Brothers Discovery credit rating cut went to junk bond status. As far as I know, it's kind of I don't know if you know anything about this or read anything about it.
It's confusing.
It's
I'm not
confusing,
smart
right?
enough.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know more about it because what it sounds like is that they said that you're so bad off that you should not split. That's how bad you are. If you split, you're going to be failing both splits
Yeah.
of the company. That's as far as pretty much as what I know of it. But everything else in the article was confusing, and all had to do with stocks and splitting and splitting the company. They
It's
want
like trying to
split
figure out the stock market, to be honest. I mean, they have a movie
Yeah,
that comes out
that's
that
what it
does $1
sounds
billion
like.
and the fucking stock goes down. I'm like, how's that work?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that was a big, huge article this week. I didn't really understand any of it. I'm wondering if you knew a little bit more. But Carey Mulligan has been cast in the Narnia movie. We found out a little bit more about the Narnia movie as well. Greta Gerwig, right after Barbie coming in to do these Narnia movies on Netflix. And the first one is based off of the 6th book in the series. So it's not even The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but it's actually a prequel. The 6th book is a prequel that goes back before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh, okay.
And it's about this mother who is Diggory's mother. Diggory must be the main character, and Carey Mulligan's coming in to play her. And it's all about the White Witch going into London, which is kind of cool because we always go into the wardrobe and see Narnia and all that stuff. But they actually bring in the White Witch into London, and then Aslan has to come into London as well. And if it's a prequel, I'm guessing they're just going to go in chronological order instead of starting off with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which they've done in every adaptation so far. It's just kind of cool. I'm interested to see what they do with these Narnia movies. I was obsessed with those books when I was younger, in the BBC miniseries we watched in school. So interested to see where this goes. And the movies that came out with Disney were okay. But yeah. Deadline reported that there's going to be a new movie with Denzel Washington, Kevin Bacon, and Pauly Shore. A thriller called Get Out of Our Way, coming out in summer of 2026, summer of next year. Pauly Shore being in a movie after all of the shit that he came out with in the 90s and being cast now is kind of crazy, but in a movie with Denzel Washington nonetheless. But speaking of movies I don't understand, Michael Bay is officially directing the Skibbity Toilet movie. Is now in production.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yay.
Speaking of Michael Bay,
what the hell is skip? It's like a dude's head in a toilet. Like that became a thing.
It's a YouTube. It's a bunch of YouTube shorts, and Skibbity Toilet came from that. And then ask anyone under the age of 15 what it is,
Right.
and they'll know exactly what it is. But yeah, it's just some sort of a kid thing. these YouTube shorts. That's what kids watch nowadays. They don't watch TV; they watch YouTube. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem sequel has been delayed almost a year to September 17th, 2027. Not the only delay we got this week. We'll talk about that at the end.
Certainly not.
Elizabeth Debicki, who was in she was in was it Royals? She played Princess Diana. She was also in Deadpool and Wolverine. She played Professor Xavier's sister. Or no, that's not who I'm thinking of. I don't know who I'm thinking of. But she's in talks to star in David Fincher's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel with Brad Pitt. Other than that, we don't know much more about it. Yeah. Last couple of weeks, I've been talking about how great The Bondsman is. I love that show.
Yep.
I was like, well, it leaves off on a great cliffhanger if they do a season 2. Well, it was announced right after I finished the fucking series that they got canceled after season 1.
Figures.
Kevin Bacon went online talking about it. He was kind of shocked about it too. But yeah, they just don't have time for a week shit. And number one, it wasn't promoted. I barely found it myself. I found it after it already aired, a month after it already aired. So it was a great show. I think it had a lot of potential, but it just wasn't picked up. It wasn't picked on for people who were watching it. But everybody I saw it loved it. So I don't know. You sent me this article, and a lot of people are going out saying it's fake, but Department of Homeland Security are considering a pitch for U.S. citizenship, a competition and reality show. There must be a goal going on.
Yeah, it's his favorite team's in like the championship, so it's like his Super Bowl.
Okay, Super Bowl. I know how that feels with WrestleMania. But yeah, we don't get into political stuff, so I won't bring that up. But I will bring this up. Hulk Hogan's Real American brand, his Real American beer, reportedly made a bid to acquire the restaurant chain Hooters. Hulk Hogan buying Hooters seems about right. Maybe for 1990 time. I'm not sure about now. I'm not sure. I guess that beer is doing pretty well. But yeah. Sesame Street found a new home on Netflix. I believe at the end of the year, it's going to be on Netflix, and they created a poster with Cookie Monster coming in and eating the N from Netflix. Big, huge part of childhood for everybody, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And it's good that they brought it onto something. They left Max at the beginning of the year. So, Kieran Culkin is cast in the Hunger Games. Caesar Flickerman, who was a part of the Hunger Games, played by Stanley Tucci back in the day. He's going to be playing a younger version of him. Kieran Culkin, big name now in TV and movies. Brother of Macaulay, of course, younger brother. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Emma Darcy. I didn't see this article till yesterday on how old it is, but Emma Darcy has been cast in an untitled movie starring Tom Cruise. And she played Rhaenyra, the older Rhaenyra in House of Dragon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see her and Tom Cruise act together sometime next year coming out. Zach Braff. I don't know if you're a big fan of Scrubs back in the day. Watched any of the episodes?
I was not, but I know who this guy is. He's been in other
Zach
things.
Braff.
Yeah,
a whole bunch of other stuff.
Wasn't he in Idiocracy?
No, you're thinking of Dax.
That's I think of Dax. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can't remember.
They look familiar. Dax Shepard. Yeah.
Dax Shepard. They look exactly alike. You're right. But they're going to be doing a reboot of Scrubs, and he is signed on to be a part of that. Coming back into the hospital where he got famous. So yeah. Announced yesterday. I don't know if you're a big fan of the Dan Brown books, the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code books, and all that story. The movies were Tom Hanks.
Yep.
But they're going to be doing a series. I guess he has a 6th book coming out in the fall, and they're going to be adapting the 6th book into a series. They've only done 3 movies. They haven't done the other 2 books, but they're going to jump right to the 6th book, which comes out in the fall, and going to do an adaptation of that. So yeah, all about the Harvard professor Robert Langdon, played by Tom Hanks. I don't know if he's coming back for this or not, but we'll have to wait and see. Game of Thrones writer George R.R. Martin has joined the production of an animated Hercules movie. This is his latest extracurricular activity that's not working on Winds of Winter. George R.R., what are you doing? Finish that fucking book. Got a new poster for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. New season comes out on July 9th.
Nice.
Them in a Philly cheesesteak. Looks really, really cool. Got also another look of Naked Gun, which comes out on August 1st of this year. Leslie Nielsen and Pamela Anderson. Cannot wait for that. Hunter Doan has been cast in Evil Dead Burn. He was in Wednesday. He was just in Daredevil Born Again. He played Muse in that. I don't have a picture of that. But yeah, he's going to be part of Evil Dead Burn. It comes out next year, July 24th of 2026. I'm not sure if they're filming the spinoff of Reacher, or if they're filming Reacher season 4. But
Right.
Reacher and what's her name were in the crowd of a Cubs game this
Yep,
week, and they
I
picked
saw
them up, filming a scene there. I know they're Neely. They're doing a spinoff of Neely, and they're filming that currently. So that's probably what he was a part of. But cannot wait for that. Came out this week. This is kind of interesting. They are doing the Street Fighter movie, and some casting news came out. Andrew Koji and Noah Centineo. I don't know who they are. But they're in talks to star as Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter. Also in talks to star, not sure who they're going to be playing, but Roman Reigns and Jason Momoa to be 2 characters in Street Fighter. In talks, I don't know who they'd be playing, but
I think one of them's going to be Balrog. Is that the name of the character, I think?
Or Baraka, is that what it is?
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long since I played Street Fighter.
Same.
But yeah. Conan O'Brien is going to be voicing a character in Toy Story 5, and Jimmy Kimmel is going to be playing a character in the Smurfs movie. I guess late night wasn't paying him enough, so they had to go into animation and doing voiceover. So, Highlander reboot. I did not know this, but it moved to Amazon because Lionsgate didn't believe in Henry Cavill. Did you see this article at all this week?
I did. I've been told it's nothing more than a hit piece.
Okay, it's
by a certain fan base. But I mean,
right.
honestly, has he ever been in anything that wasn't already a built-in IP that was successful?
Right.
The Immortals, maybe, and that was before Superman.
Right.
But yeah.
Alex Garland was officially added on as a director of a live-action film adaptation of the video game Elden Ring, which I know is huge.
Interesting choice.
A24 movie. Bandai and Namco is going to be producing it. He just did a Warfare. Of course, he did Civil War last year, so interesting. Based on a mythological story by George R.R. Martin, which I did not know. Elden Ring
he wrote
based
that
off of that
game. Yep.
I had no idea. And announced yesterday, Devil's Wears Prada is going to have a sequel coming out May 1st, 2026, with no competition now. And that's gonna be a follow-up to the whole entire movie. It was a big, huge hit in 2006. Anne Hathaway coming back, and I believe, and what's her name coming back too? I guess I was just looking right at her. I can't think of her name.
I'm blanking on it
too. Sinners coming out in digital on June 3rd, 45 days after its theatrical release. It made $300 million on a $90 million budget, so it did great. We loved it. Everybody talks about how great it is when they've seen it, but just people aren't going to the theaters as much as they were before COVID. So, let's talk about some popcorn buckets. Talk about this one first. Karate Kid Legend. I believe does it come out next week?
I think so.
Well, they're gonna have a popcorn bucket where you can karate chop it open, and they had some pictures of it. They also have some new cups there, new popcorn tins and things. Also got some new. I believe there's a Cinemark. Popcorn buckets, TRX shaped bucket. We got some pails and cups and toys and plushies, a whole bunch of other shit. How to Train Your Dragon. We got some better pictures of that as well. The toothless popcorn bucket and cup and all that stuff. And we also got the F1 next big movie coming out June 27th, Apple TV movie. But yeah, let's talk about some swag.
Swag. Stuff we all get.
Come on, son. You know that's right.
I don't know if it's the first time. Has there ever been a Watchmen figure? I don't know if this is the first time they've made them. But we got Dr. Manhattan and we got Silk Spectre.
Nice. I might get the cool. Dr. Manhattan. I like that character.
This look really cool. We got a deluxe theatrical edition figure, which is the first time I've seen a picture of this. Of Darren Corn Sweat Superman. And Crypto. Looked really cool. We also got some pictures of the Burger King exclusive toys are coming out with Superman. James Gunn posted this week. All the characters, all the main characters of the movie. Where are we at? We got some better pictures of Baby Joey and Baby Kaiju, which are going to be a big part of the storyline with Lex Luthor and LexCorp Lab. So yeah, there's that. We also got this. We talked a lot off pod about it, but Fenway Park in Boston is going to be having a Superman night on June 30th, and we're giving away these really cool bobbleheads. Have you heard anything else about these bobbleheads?
I want one really bad.
Besides putting your feelers out there for anybody you know in Boston who may have access to those.
I've texted a few people I know. We'll see what happens.
Here's something you may be able to get if you want to invest in some gold. Superman coming out with official coins, official U.S. currency, a silver medal, and also a gold proof coin, a 24 karat gold proof coin. Superman looks like Smallville, him sitting on a fence in Smallville with Pa Kent in the background. Look really, really cool. Probably expensive, but they're investing. If you want to buy some gold, you can do that. And they come with a certificate of authenticity, I believe, too. Got a new picture of Superman, came out in a Fandango exclusive preview this week.
Why wasn't that the first look at the suit?
Yeah, it should have been. I heard that.
Well, I honestly don't think
well.
James Gunn gives one flying fucking iota about the first look of something, because it doesn't honestly mean anything.
Yep. And also this, we found out that there's going to be a preview of Superman coming out. Amazon can be doing it, coming out June 7th. Early previews, like 4 days early. And you can sign up on Amazon, and you can get your ticket for 7 p.m. for that night. And you have to be there at a certain time. I'm not sure. Probably in all the big cities is going to have this, but also get some new posters for Superman and Clark. And James Gunn release these this week. So very, very much looking forward to that movie. Cannot wait. This week, he got all hyped up with the Superman stuff. We forgot to mention the actors playing Ma and Pa Kent. She showed a picture of them on Twitter this week, talking about how excited he is to see them on screen. So am I. I'm not even going to bring that up because I think that's all fake. But we did get a first look at Galactus. This came out of a promo image. I believe Snapple released these. This is the first picture of Ralph Ineson as Galactus. We got a full picture of him here, full look, and of course them looking over the Fantastic Four. We got some more promo shots of Reed Richards stretching and the whole team together. It looked really, really cool with Herbie. Cannot wait for that movie. We got Johnny and Reed in space. Looks really cool. And finally in news, a couple of pieces we're going to talk about. They had this Disney Blockbuster Consumer Products panel. It was all for people pretty much toys and for merchandising, but they had this promo shot for Spider-Man. And people are saying and speculating that could be the official look of what Spider-Man is going to look like in the new Spider-Man trilogy or Spider-Man series. And also in that thing, it was announced that Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone are going to be part of that movie, Brand New Day. And I guess whoever attended that thing said that they were mentioned in the panel, and pictures of them was shown, I guess, figures or something. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're the main villains, but definitely part of it. Tombstone, a huge part of the video game, Scorpion as well, so we'll have to wait and see on that. Also, another shot of Doom. Dr. Doom is shown there as well with the Avengers. It was all part of that panel as well. We didn't hear anything about the toys from that, but ending the show, big, huge news this week or yesterday was Doomsday and Secret Wars have both been delayed. We're only getting one Marvel movie between now and Doomsday, which has been pushed 7 months to December 17th or December 18th, 2026. It's supposed to come out next May. And Avengers Secret Wars also pushed 6 months to December 17th, 2027. So yeah, they're giving it more time, which makes sense. I mean, the movie's coming out in a year. And they're still in production, so it makes sense to give them time to finish it. There's so much at stake with these movies.
They don't even have a finished script yet, so it definitely makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And also, the other thing is, Avengers Doomsday is coming out the same exact day as Dune Messiah. So Avengers Doomsday is what everybody's calling it.
Dune will move.
December 18th. And Dune will definitely
IMAX.
move. Yep. Yeah, because IMAX will fuck up everything for sure. Also, they removed a whole bunch of movies from the untitled Marvel movies. February 13th and November 6th of 2026 removed from the schedule, and November 5th, 2027. And they added 3 movies to the 2028 schedule. So there are going to be 3 Marvel movies as far as right now is concerned in 2028, starting in February, May, and November. So that's it for the show this week. Thanks, everybody. Next week, we'll talk about Mobland, the penultimate episode. Last of Us, the finales this weekend. We'll talk about that. The finale of Dark Side of the Ring, Muhammad Usan's next week. Talk about Murder Robot, episode 4, Murder Bot. Fountain of Youth, a movie on Apple TV, came out today starring John Krasinski, Natalie Portman. That came out today on Apple TV. I'm going to watch that this weekend. Also came out today on HBO Max, Pee-wee as Himself, a documentary. I'm going to watch that, talk about that. In theaters, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Friendship came out today. Everybody's talking great about that and how funny it is. Funniest movie ever made, and don't know about that. But the big thing next week, we got some homework to do, is the death and return of Superman.
Yep.
Talk all about that. Read the comics that at least the death of Superman. We'll talk about him returning, the long black hair, the black suit. We'll talk about all the characters that are brought up, from Superboy to Cyborg Superman to Steel, all of it trying to try to become Superman. Who is the real Superman was a big thing. Also talk about the Nicolas Cage Superman Lives movie. Briefly talk about that. We'll talk about the documentary. We'll bring that up as well. So if anybody wants to watch it and learn more about it, they can. But thank you, everybody. And we will talk to you next week. Peace out.
Peace.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you, talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you want to be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Geek Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds, rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blurred. Join us each week for a geeky chat, with the latest news and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all its maze, tune in to Geek Blurb, we're here to entertain.